I'm just going to give you the summary. My question is this, and this is coming from Kyle. What steps do I take to be able to freelance edit full-time? I live in Houston. Do I realistically need to move to California? Do I need to email all my contacts about potential work? Can I work remotely? What kind of reel do I need? Tips for building a reel. It's really scary jumping from a stable job. How much should I save before I do it? Okay, that's a lot of questions, but I think it's a really important topic. Who in the chat room is in that situation where they're like either in a job that they want to switch to and become a full-time freelance editor, work for themselves, become their own business, or is already doing it? Let me know. And so I had this whole thing prepared that I probably won't be able to access right now. I had a friend of mine, Tony Gallardo, make a statement about this because he was in that situation. He was working as an editor in-house for a company, and he was partnering up with somebody and decided he wanted to just be on his own. And he described a little bit the steps that he took to make it real for him. So I'm going to get to that at the end of the video. Doing it part-time. So CPA Carmel is doing it part-time. Todd is struggling. Brian would like to work more for himself. He says, I had a few small jobs in the past, but nothing I could live off. Very good, very good. So we have 9 people in the chat room. So if you just joined us, sorry for starting late. Lots of technical troubles, but here we go. Once you know that you want to take that step, and you'll know you have that urge, that pain, like you're not quite happy with your job that you're currently doing. You don't feel like creatively as fulfilled. You'd like to be able to manage your time on your own better, be more in charge of your own time. Once you have that feeling, you got to start somewhere. And I'm going to describe how it was for me. I just came off directing a film. I was a full-time editor, sort of to say. When I started off, I worked for James Cameron for 3.5 years, and I decided I need to go my own way, do my own film. I did that, and I completed that journey, and then I had to start again because I needed to make money. And so the way that I started is I went on Craigslist and Mandy.com. I just checked online. Mandy.com is back up. They used to be TV Film Pro. They switched at some point, and now the domain is working again. And I just was looking for jobs, anything, bottom of the barrel, to just get started. And that's tip number 1. You have to start somewhere. If you're already in that position where you don't have a fallback, it's tough because you're taking jobs that pay you $300 and they're not great jobs. It's somebody's reel that you need to work on, and that's what I did. But it fairly quickly led to follow-up jobs with the same people. By doing a good job, meeting their demands in terms of what they needed to get done, and then leveraging up. And a $300 job would maybe turn into a $5,000 job on the next turnaround. That's what I did with one specific client. He had a reel that he needed to pitch a new show. And this is a guy that's not like a working producer that has a bunch of shows. This is just a guy with a dream that's working on realizing his project. So he had $300 for me to cut the reel. I did that. I met him through Craigslist or Mandy. I can't remember. And then as we were cutting that project, he was telling me about this long-lost film that he started and that he never finished. So I'm like, well, show me the footage. And he did. And I looked at the project and I presented some ideas to him and kind of had to really sell him on the fact to go back in there, open up the film and finish it. And I proposed the budget and we agreed. I think it was $5,000. And I worked on that project maybe for 3 months. So still not a ton of money, but it's enough money that you know it's real. So you got to start somewhere. It's important to scour the internet for those jobs that barely pay anything and get those first clients. When you do get those first clients, be aware, because these are not your best, most reliable clients. They might not even pay you at the end. So one recommendation one recommendation that I have is, when you take a new client, always ask for 50% upfront. So it's a $300 job, let them pay $150 upfront. That means that they're already committed. Now they have an interest to see through this project. So if they change their mind, or for some reason they want to stick you for the bill, at least you have half of the money and the loss will be less painful. If your first client isn't willing to give you 50% upfront, don't take that client. Just move on to the next one. So that's sort of the beginning phase. I'm going to look at the chat room real quick and see if you guys have some questions about that. Satcher J, very part-time. Most of my editing is on my own feature doc right now. Willie wants to be an editor as a career. He has an IT job, so he has to do it right. You don't want to risk, obviously. You want to be risk averse. But at some point, you got to take the chance, because there's something really comforting about safety, and there's something really detrimental about it. Because whenever you have a fallback, as soon as you face problems or rejection, you're going to fall back. And it's especially hard when you have a family. So I understand that situation, but at some point, you got to take that leap. You don't have to do it right away, but at some point when you feel like, okay, there is a little light at the end of the tunnel, you got to just put yourself in a position where you can't have a plan B. What level of contracts do you find required? I tend to be very loose with contracts. Nowadays, I don't do any contracts, or I don't really enforce them. If a company wants to do a contract with me, I'm very happy to do it. But I really look at the body of work of the director or the production company, and instinct and common sense tells me whether they're reliable or not. So it's not something that I really am insistent on, and especially at the beginning when you're building a client relationship, sometimes just the fact that you're asking for a contract could be an obstacle. Now, that's how I see it, but the right advice would be, yes, always put it in writing. I don't do it. Yeah, it's called mandy.com. The website is called mandy.com, and it is a website for professional filmmakers and aspiring filmmakers to find crew and cast. And at the beginning, it was very, very efficient. I would get quite a lot of responses. Now I would imagine, and every once in a while I tried it to see what it's like. I even posted a job on Mandy, and the response is overwhelming. You'll get 600 emails, resumes sent to you within a day. So its chances are not very high, but you still got to do it. You got to find those jobs. Cut to the point. I used to edit full-time. Right now I'm full-time into editing, but I'm not a full-time editor anymore. Got it. He has a great client from the other side of the world. Putting yourself on YouTube or somewhere else helps finding the clients. It's definitely part of it. Branding is a big part, and we're going to talk about that. When I do the This Guy Edits YouTube channel, it definitely helps present myself, put out a brand, and I do get a lot of job offers through the channel. Most of them I probably won't be able to take just because of the budget constraints, a lot of independent features with barely any money. But I do enjoy being out there and being known for being an editor and having more choices. That's really good. Nostalgic Norden, not a full-time editor. Editing my own projects and occasionally other people's stuff, but mostly acts, writes, and directs. Okay, good, cool. Yeah, I mean, it's It's obviously whatever your passion is. It's very important, and um, it's very important to know where you want to end up as an editor. So know early on whether you're okay being a reality TV show editor, and because once you're in that niche, it's going to be that much harder to switch genres. Sometimes you sort of jumble into an industry and you got to take those jobs. That's okay. But if you already know where you want to end up, you can make smarter strategic decisions. If you are interested in reality show editing, and there's nothing wrong with that genre in sense of a job, there's a website called realitystaff.com, realitycrew.com, something like that. Google it, and they post a lot of jobs in there. I did fall into reality after I sort of had to find new opportunities for myself, and it paid my bills very well for several years. So I'm very grateful for that time. But then I really had to make big steps, drastic decisions to remove myself from that genre and to be known as a independent feature film editor, documentary editor. And that's really where I see my career in that area. I mean, ultimately, yes, I would do a studio movie, and I would certainly take on that challenge. But I really do enjoy this niche because it allows for me to work from home mostly, be with my family, work at night, and to a certain degree work on my own terms. And that's really one of the major benefits of being a freelancer. So let's move on. I talked about clients, so don't disregard the small clients that hardly pay anything because they can lead to bigger and better jobs. You really need to be working. So whatever comes through the door, that is really important to take so that you are constantly working. If you are starting to get in that position where you have more work that you can handle, start become more selective. Find the better clients, find the clients that you know won't be overly demanding. You set a certain cap on a budget and they just ask for more and more work, but you've agreed to that budget. And once you've agreed to it, it's very hard to ask for more. You can try, but it usually doesn't work. And you want to leave every relationship on a high note. You want to make sure that that client is happy. So when you enter that second phase, really pick your clients so that you know you'll have a positive experience. Who has had a really bad client experience? Let me know in the chat room. Once you're in that stage or parallel to that, start networking. Networking is really something that doesn't come easily to me. I don't enjoy it. I'm an introvert. I'd rather stay at home. I don't think there's much purpose in networking by going to parties and just hanging around or finding small talk conversations where you talk about each other's jobs. That has never worked for me. Much better, I think, is to, if you're in that environment, just have fun and have casual conversations with people about other stuff that is interesting. It could be movies, it could be cultural events, something you have in common, and just enjoy each other's company. That's basically as far as you can go. And then later, once you feel really comfortable, you can talk more about work, or somebody will approach you and ask you. But I do think there's a better way to network, and that is to go to some events. I don't want to call them networking events, but basically that's what happens in the background. So if you go to meetups about film, local clubs where people present their projects, discuss ideas, how they got things done. If you go to screenings, local film festival, all those are opportunities to show your face and become visible. And especially with meetups, I would always see if you can see how the host is conducting these events and if he needs help. Volunteer yourself to be the guy that holds the microphone in the room when questions are being asked, and you're going to run around and pick up those questions. That's really one way that you can become an asset to that person. And whoever hosts these events is the person that knows everybody. And to have him on your good side or her, that's a great first start to break into these circles, into these networking, because he'll immediately will start introducing you because you're helping him or her. Let's take a look at the chat room. Setcher JJ. Oh, that's, I hope I pronounce this right. I've done professional photo and video work while clients ask for everything and want to pay nothing. So I'm careful to fire clients early. Most of my problem clients are the bargain clients. They are. I mean, the people that want to pay the least are probably the most difficult clients to work with. So you have to be careful. I had a client, and I think he paid me $150 to do his acting reel. And so I asked for 50% upfront. It took him a long time to actually pay the $75, but I wouldn't start the work until I got the $75. Then I did the work, and he came in and asked for changes. I did the changes, came in, asked for more changes. And at some point, I really had to draw the line and say, okay, this is the last. We're not leaving this room until you sign off on this project. And we just set it out, finished the project. He walked away and gave me a call the next day, said, oh, we need to make this one change. And I said, I'm sorry, this is what we agreed on. This is what we're doing. And luckily I was in an office that had security, because he came back and he wanted to talk to me. And it became really weird because he's like at the door. He was like, I have problems with my girlfriends right now. I have so much stress. Can I just talk to you? And I just had to tell him, look, I'm instructing security that if you don't leave the premise, to call the police. And that was for $150 jobs. He ended up paying me the whole amount, but it was probably 2 weeks of work to do it. Very, very difficult. But at the beginning, unfortunately, that's where you're at. You're trying to find the good clients, the ones that generally are interested in making things with you and that want to build a relationship with you. And once they start trusting you, they're more willing to open up their wallet. Todd, I had that feature doc where 8 hours of raw footage turned into 35. A story well told. I'm sorry, it's not Todd. Oh, that's you, Josh. I learned to thoroughly go through notes with a client before taking a job, thus having both parties on the same page from start. Yes, absolutely. It's important to be very transparent about what it is that you both are expecting to get out of this. Transparency is important. And that's something you'll learn. It's really, I mentioned in terms of networking, volunteer as an organizer, start presenting yourself as a business, think like a business, and seek out opportunities where you can share value. It could be on YouTube. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to talk about what I'm passionate about in terms of the editing, share some of the experience that I have, but you really don't need to be a 100% expert to be able to already share wisdom. You can do some research and use some of your instincts. But if you just know a little bit more than your target audience, you are already in a really good place to share. It's really also about who you are, how you present it. Are you telling these stories, these videos in an entertaining way? That's as important as the actual information. Information is everywhere. Nobody needs to technically pay for a course to learn something. The information is available. To make it entertaining and digestible is really what you can bring to the table. So, and by doing that, you become a brand. You present yourself as an authority. And if you grow a following, then there's something that's called authority bias. So for me, I have 160,000 subscribers. And just the fact that these people subscribe make other people think that this must be an authority. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So at the beginning, you kind of fake it until you make it, and that's also as a freelance editor when you start, and then at some point you can back it up. And it's what's also really good about starting with small clients is it's okay to make mistakes, because there's not that much at stake in terms of the money that you're losing or the size of the project. And you can just really do the work and start learning the craft and start becoming a better storyteller. And then you grow. With each client, you can grow. I was going to present this video about Tony Galato. I'm going to post it on Patreon as a clip, and I'm going to unlock it, make it available for free, so that everybody can see it, where he talks about his steps. So Tony lives in San Antonio, Texas, and he has a company called Tomiger, and their business is basically to do branded content for companies. It could be a commercial. It's mostly online stuff. It could be some form of corporate video where they explain a service or a product. And he really turned that concept from one client into several clients, and he has, I think, a staff of at least 2 people and an office. And he doesn't feel the need to go to LA, because that's really the place where he wants to be. He wants to build relationships with these types of clients. He wants to tell these types of stories. And for him, he created an environment in a local market to make that happen. Some more questions. Nostalgic Norden, worst experience? Freelance editing gig in a remote, creepy cellar for a weird Egyptian guy that wanted me to basically edit his weird porn drama. Delusional guy, first job, objective, crack, Final Cut Pro. That actually sounds like a movie. That sounds like an interesting project. And so you get something out of that in terms of being able to master software. So that's really good. I love that sometimes the job requires me to learn a new software. And because clients sometimes really demand you have to cut on Premiere because our infrastructure is set up, Avid, what have you. And then I'm forced to get in there and learn the software. It's really hard for me to just do a tutorial about software and then go in and do the job. Much better to have a job with a deadline that requires me to learn the software and then keep it simple at the beginning. Just make it real simple cuts. Don't get fancy, and just hide the fact that you don't know how to color correct or do a fancy transition. When I started in reality show, I first got a job with Fremantle Media. That's the company that does American Idol, and they just started with Idol. They were like season 2 or so, and they started their development department and hired me for one day to replace their in-house editor to cut a reel for a new show called America's Got Talent. It was a big hit in the UK, and they wanted to sell it to the American market. So I went in there, new software, I knew nothing about it. I just knew the basics, and I started cutting it. And I remember seeing a trailer on HBO about a show. I don't even remember what the show was. And I went back in there because they had a really cool transition. With reality, you need really flashy transitions. And I looked at it frame by frame by frame. And I could see how that transition was basically a smash zoom, 4 frames, to a white flash frame, and then a smash out. And it looked really, really cool back then. So I just started doing this one transition throughout the entire sizzle reel. And the client just loved it. Thought it was the greatest thing ever. Like back then, maybe transitions weren't that great yet. They didn't have the plugins yet. And that, and the reason that I showed up and I always said yes, that's important. Actually, the person that I talked to on the phone told me, called me up and said, "Hey, are you available tomorrow?" I said, "Yes." "Can you come down here and can you do it for this amount of money?" I said, "Yes." "Do you see any problems working with this type of footage?" I'm like, "No, I don't see a problem with that. I'll figure it out." And at the end of the conversation, he really said, "I really love that you never said no, that you said yes to everything." So I had this like positive spirit. Try not to overpromise. It's better to over-deliver, under-promise and over-deliver. But that attitude of yes really set him in a mood of I just solved a problem for him. So I came over, did the sizzle within a day, and they were so happy that they called me back. And within a few weeks, I became their new go-to editor, because maybe the other editor was kind of little jaded, little like giving them a little pushback on certain projects. I never gave any pushbacks at that point. I was just happy to do the work, and the rate was insane back then. I think it was like $600 a day that they took. Like I just threw out a number and they just took it. And I was in heaven, because for the last year, I didn't make any money. I just sort of was living still on feature money, and that feature didn't make much money, but it was a great in, and that helped. So finding that the client that has money is really important. Okay, Brian, I'm going to read your questions. It's a three-parter. What qualities and skills do you believe you brought to the table, so to speak, in order to cut through the competition and get jobs done? I kind of answered that already. Attitude of yes, but I'll add to that. I often feel overwhelmed by the amount of people that compete. Preference, your epic editing challenge. Reference. Okay, we should talk about the epic editing challenge. In short, it feels like winning the lottery. Hope I'm wrong about that assessment. I think you're wrong about that assessment. And here's what I think. I think there's a certain type of editor, and I call it the go-to editor, that once you've established yourself to be that guy, you will just race past the competition. And it has to do more with the social skills and the attitude than it actually has to do with your talent. Just the fact that you are willing to do whatever it takes to solve somebody else's problem sets you immediately apart. You have to. There were 750 cuts. 700 cuts of that technically probably weren't up to par, but I probably still would have hired a certain amount of those people any day because of their attitude. And that's the number one reason why I would hire somebody that doesn't give me problems, somebody that solves problems. And if you can present that attitude in the interview, you can be really, really strong in the interview. And usually once I have the meeting to make the interview, I would say 90% of the time I got the job, just because of the way that you present yourself. So the most important part, and I agree, that's kind of the lottery. You never really know whether somebody's going to read your resume, and it's almost impossible to get the meeting that way on a cold call. But once you're in that room, you have all the power. I'm going to answer some of these questions from Kyle and then go back into the chat. Do I need to move to California? I don't think so. There's something really nice about doing editing in LA, because there's always work. That's a great thing about big markets. There is always work. There's a lot of competition, and that makes it tough to get into the room, but there's always work. Sometimes it feels in a small market, and I don't really know that, but sometimes it feels like there's not enough work. There's a lot of people wanting to do it, but even if you're the top guy, sometimes it feels like there's not enough work. But Tony in San Antonio, he has more work than he can handle. And that's a secondary market, I would say. So I don't think the first step should be to come to LA. I think your first step should be to become the top dog in your small town. What kind of reel do I need? Gosh, I haven't done a reel in 12 years, and I should have a reel. I still use my old reel when people ask me for it, but I don't even know if they look at it. It's just sort of something that you need to have. And if you're starting out, it's probably more important to have a reel. What kind of reel does it need to be? It needs to be short. It needs to be flashy. It needs to show storytelling. So I don't like just shots. You're not a DP. You're not just showing fancy looking product shots. You need to show me that you can edit. So the reel itself needs to tell the story, or you need to show me scenes. So I can hear the actors talk for a couple of moments. I can hear an interchange and how you build that moment. That's really important for a reel. My reel is like 9 minutes long. I have an opening montage that is 30 seconds. It shows a lot of flash and a lot of celebrity brands, so famous actors or famous products. I have like Pepsi in there. I have James Cameron in there. I have James Franco in there. But then I just show 3 scenes from 3 different genres. And that's my general reel. And if people don't want to watch 9 minutes, they don't have to. I don't expect them to watch the 9 minutes, but I give them the option. And by giving them a 9 minute reel, I probably am already different from everybody else. And being different is not a bad thing. Jumping from a stable job is scary. I'm in that position right now to a certain degree. I just turned down a big job in Vegas to do a new show there that they want to open up and be one of the editors to build. They have like 30 screens on the stage and cut content for that. And it's the highest rate that I've ever asked for. And I said no, because I know that that job is not furthering my career or my business strategy in the sense of where I want to be. And I defined that goal, and the goal is to write my own ticket, to be able to sit in this office and do projects, and to be able to do YouTube and build around that, to ultimately build a community and a business that is self-sustainable. And if I take a month or two away from that goal, even though that money is really great and it's going to pay bills for twice as many months as I'm working, which is great, I'm still wasting my time. So I decided to do no on that. But in a way, that's at some point, that's what you have to do with your safe job. Put yourself in a position where you can't go back. You just have to lean into the risk. And that's once I did that, once I made those decisions, I feel way more pressure and motivation to just keep pursuing my goals, because I know my runway is only this long. I can only do this for another 6 months or 12 months, and then I need to make money. So I'll better make sure those 6 to 12 months I spend well. And I love that pressure. It's a positive pressure to me. Have I answered Kyle's questions? How much should I save before I do it? If you can be okay for 12 months, that'd be great. If you can't, try to be okay for 6 months. But whatever it is, trust you me, once you're in a position where you can't go back, you're going forward real fast. Because you're going to take every opportunity. You're going to go to every meeting. You're not going to be like, I don't feel it. Today I'm not going to go out. You'll be at that meeting, and you'll be right there watching what everybody's doing and see if you can jump in and help them out. You can sound desperate, but you got to be excited and hungry. Okay, I think I answered Kyle's questions, hopefully. Let's see what else we got here. So Brian says, thank you. You're welcome. Oh, you cracked Final Cut Pro illegally. Gotcha. Satcher, how often do you bill per project, or do you normally bill for time day rate? If you have a great client where you can make it about a day rate, do that. Because you never know how much time you're going to invest in a project. You never know how many rounds of notes you need to do. I did a project for a big telecommunication company, and it looked like it was going to be a $10,000 job. It turned out to be a $50,000 job, because it was just 3 months of continuous notes. And if I would have agreed to a $10,000 cap, I would have been screwed. I would have lost $40,000. So, and there are certain clients that will agree to that. There are clients that have money and that want to get the job done, and those are the clients you need to find. There are other clients, they don't have more than what they say they have. They just don't. You can't make them. You can't renegotiate. It's impossible. And if you have those clients, make sure you have other reasons why you're working with them, which is the opportunity down the road, or you're excited about the project. So If I'm in that position where I have this really reliable client, I bill them on a weekly basis. I'll try to um, keep them regular in terms of paying. I don't want to have this huge amount at the end. Once you deliver the project, you are in a position of weakness again. Once they have all the assets, you're at the mercy of the client to pay you. And if you have a good client, it's no problem. You can wait 30 days or whatever, how long they tend to take. But if you have a bad client, there's not a whole lot you can do other than going to court. And if you have them pay chunks up front or do a step payment plan and say, okay, we're halfway through the project. You already paid me 50%. Now you need to pay me another 25%. So by the time you deliver the project, you should hopefully only have like 25% less or less left for them to pay. So that if you lose out on that money, you're not going to lose that much. Did you ever found yourself in a position when you said yes but couldn't do it? I try not to get into that position. Rarely. I'm sure there were one or two projects where I had to walk away from something, but usually what that means is I don't take that final payment either. I'll make sure that whatever they paid for, they get. But I feel one of the reasons why you're successful in this business is because you see it through. Once you say yes to a project, you have to make sure that the finished project gets delivered and the client is happy. Doesn't mean that you always have to just listen and take abuse from the client, take more rounds of notes that weren't agreed upon. But put yourself in a position where you can live with the fact that, okay, I've made enough money with this client. We're 80% there. The last 20%, I'm just going to eat it. I'm just going to give it to them, make sure they're happy. And once they realize you're just in it and you're committed, it usually leads to that follow-up job. I haven't really talked about what is the number one reason why people hire you. And the number one reason why people hire you is because somebody recommends you to them. Somebody is in a bind, needs somebody real fast. They're asking their friends, who do you know? And then suddenly you get this strange call from somebody who said, somebody recommended to you. They can't even tell you who it was because they gave that number to the post supervisor or something. And are you available tomorrow to jump in? And that's how I get 90% of the job offers, is this like somebody recommended, and oftentimes it's a crisis situation. And it's not a bad situation to be in because it puts you in a position of power. They already decided they want to hire you because a friend is standing up for you and they need you. And now you can demand a rate that is fair. So word of mouth it's not the real, it's not the resume, it's not the networking to a certain degree. It's really word of mouth that gets you the next job. And then finding great clients that hire you over and over again. Being a professional, being a solution provider, problem solver, absolutely. Hey Ken, sorry. Okay, you were late. That's fine. It's okay. I was late. You don't even want to know. It was a big hassle. For bill per job, I will never do it without contract. It is just too risky. I found as a consultant, it is cheaper for both to pay for time once both are comfortable. Yeah, I agree. Paying per day, paying per hour, I think is the best way. It's the fairest system. You don't feel abused. It sets you in a position where you're like, yes, I want to provide solutions. I want to spend as much time as you need to do it and get it done. With clients like Fremantle Media, it was great because I could just build them. I would be working from home. I'd be working in their office. I'd be working through the night, whatever needed to get done. And I had an hourly rate and I had overtime rate. I just put it all on the invoice and never got pushed back because it was never about the money. But at the same time, you have to show integrity. You can't abuse that situation. If you're in somebody's office, you cannot be sneaking around. You cannot be opening up drawers if nobody's there. You cannot overbill them because you have no idea if they can verify any of this. They could go in the computer, they could check your autosave. How many times did the software autosave? There are all kinds of ways to keeping you accountable, and you need to just decide to be to have integrity about yourself and be honest, um, regardless of whether they check on you or not. Deliver watermarked final until payment. That's good. I like that, especially with new clients. Time for new glasses. Yeah, I just got these glasses in Germany, and I didn't get the transitionals. I should have. So we'll see how I solve that. Maybe Glasses USA can sponsor me. Okay, Satcha, do I pronounce your name correctly? Manic Time is a great software to automatically log hours worked. Use it for client billing. Works great. Cool. Do it. So let me know if I answered all the questions. I was a little all over the map today because it really bugged me that the stream wasn't working, and I do apologize for that. I'm going to try and set it up again next time. Test it an hour before. The problem is I can't really test it once I set the stream, because then it immediately wants to go into stream mode. So apologies for that, but we got it done. Let me also know what I did the last time is, so we had a streaming session and we had a meeting of 13 people watching, and it's great. This is for patrons to really have the opportunity to ask me whatever they want, and I'm here and I'm answering. But are you okay that I'm actually then posting this live, the rebroadcast on YouTube? Because the last time I did that, we had like 5,000 views just on YouTube. And I think it's cool to share this information, that people find this valuable, but it still gives you the opportunity to be the ones to ask the question. And I like that the chat room is small and that it's only a few people that get to voice their opinion. That's for supporting this channel. That's one of the perks that I'm happy to offer. And if you're happy with this model, I would gladly share this on YouTube. Let me know. I'm going to move on to housekeeping. Do I have any questions? Thanks for the time. Thanks, Sven. Cut to the point, doesn't have a problem. No worries. Okay, cool, great. So before we leave the session, Epic Editing Challenge finished yesterday. Did anybody of you in there take the Epic Editing Challenge? Did anybody of you win? Probably not. The chances were not very high, obviously, and we didn't expect 750 cuts to go through, but it was going to be a few hundred cuts anyway. And the challenge is really about you taking real footage and playing with it. And just, I love the fact that whenever I get footage and I put it in the timeline and I put shots next to each other, it starts making me think. Immediately, the story is starting to talk to me. And I wanted to simulate that process with real footage for the community. Channel is great. I love making video essays, 10 tips about how to edit better. Awesome. It's great. I appreciate that that type of content gets a lot of views and is being shared around. But that's absorbing information. That's only 50% of the learning. You really only understand when you do it. And the Epic Editing Challenge was about that opportunity. And it's an experiment, and I think it could be a lot better, especially in terms of the voting and all this. But the collective who hosted this, they didn't expect this to be this big. We were able to like fill a whole floor in their building that they just put up new. And now they needed an extra elevator and they needed an extra toilet and whatever in that to make that work. And we learned a lot about that. We made a lot of suggestions how to make that platform more community-based, where people can talk to each other. And all that stuff will be integrated in a future challenge, and hopefully not too soon, but soon we'll do it again. Let's read some more in the chat. Diana, took the challenge, didn't win, but being part was a real win. Exactly. Saja, you still need to tell me if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I submitted ever after. Cool. Anyway, to get the numbers of our clips, curious where we fit in the rankings you guys selected. I'm a little hesitant to release those numbers because what we did is really very binary, which is in or out. So when we went through all these criterias, I only really used these criterias accurately when I felt like it's an in. When it's somebody that I thought had a chance. So if it's an out, I just went through it. I'm like 1-1-1 or 2-2-2 or 3-3-3. 3-3-3 was somebody who was above average, fulfilled, did everything right, but it still as a story didn't connect with me. So to give you a score, you didn't make it, and let's say you sucked, which is okay. I think it's okay to suck. You need to suck a lot. But let's say you did, and you get a score and it's 2-2-2-2-2. That's not going to help you. That's not going to do anything. So unfortunately, there's too many people to give feedback on everybody's scenes. However, you're a patron, and I do give feedback through Patreon. So what I would suggest is, if you want to get feedback, put it up in the Discord, put it up in the room that is request respectful feedback, and let people watch it. You get feedback, and I will try to watch it as well and give you some feedback. But I'm not going to be able to do it for 700 people. And I got a lot of emails of people, hey, I put so much work into cutting this scene. I think I deserve some feedback. Unfortunately, you don't. You have an opportunity to cut something. You have the opportunity to get real footage and get that thinking going. And you get a shot at winning a Mac. You don't get a shot at getting feedback. If you think you deserve it, I'm sorry. Not on this competition. And I'm not being mean. It's just not impossible. We would have to hire more people. Somehow we would have to have a much bigger budget to pull off a competition like this. It would basically, we wouldn't be able to do this competition. Let's read some more. Am I running long? Should I stop the stream? Let me know. The community vote, never liked. Yeah, I looked at the community vote. It's doing a popularity contest with these competition is a big flaw. It doesn't work. There's only one purpose to do it, and that is to increase awareness of your project, and then whoever hosts the competition to increase awareness of their platform. That's what that is for. And that's why we decided not to make the audience award be the big prize, and really spent the time and judge each film. We saw each film. That's what we did. We might not see it all the way through, but we gave each one a shot and said, okay, engage me, intrigue me, make me want to watch you all the way through, and then pick the ones that we can stand behind. I think that's the best way to do a competition right. And that if there's an audience award, great. Somebody won an extra prize. Nobody else lost by having an audience award. I found watching clips on Collected to be painful. Yeah, that whole system is not working for this type. YouTube would be a better way to present all these clips. Like a playlist would be a better way to do it, where people can leave comments. There are all kinds of ways how you could make a review system, a peer review system better. But it will take some back-end programming to make that work. But it wasn't really, I mean, it was an experiment, and it wasn't the primary purpose of the competition. More challenges with feedback would be great. That's the doing part. Well, let me tell you, Brian, I'm working on a course that I want to do, and I'm actually calling it, I'm not going to tell you what I'm calling it, because I don't want people to trademark this before it comes out. I'm making an online course, and I want to do what we did in the Epic Editing Challenge, present you 3 different genres, documentary, feature, and branded stuff, and do exercises in each one of them, and do a course that is setting you up to become a real strong editor, somebody that cuts through the competition. And part of the system, there's going to be an online component where you can take the course. There's hopefully going to be a peer review system, if we can make this work somehow, where you have to review 3 other exercises from somebody else to be able to get feedback on yours. And there's also going to be a mentorship component. That needs to be an upgrade, because every time I do a one-on-one, that is the most expensive way of teaching for me, because anything I share to the community and it goes out to 5,000 people, it's not as expensive per person. But if I have to sit down with somebody on a one-on-one to give them feedback, that is an hour that I don't have to do other things. And that unfortunately needs to be valued in a way that it is fair. But I will have some form of mentorship component in that course, but it's not going to be cheap. And then you'll get feedback. You need to suck a lot. Yeah, I agree. It is. It's so important to fail and to embrace fail. I send out so many pitches and ideas to companies, and most of them say, no, we don't want to do that. And at this point, it doesn't. It doesn't even change my mood. I'm like, okay, I tried this. This didn't work. But one of them, 1 out of 10, will run with something. And getting that mindset that rejection is not something that's bad and that you should be wasting your time on after the fact is once you have that winning mindset, it's really, really good. It empowers you. So doing the epic editing challenge and sucking and saying, you know what, it was great, do it again. I want to do it again. I want to do it again and again and again. You really get addictive to this process of just making stuff. And at some point, something's going to work. And that's why it's so important to put the work that you do out there. I mean, we did specifically say with the Epic Editing Challenge, you can't put it on your reel. You cannot present it as a sample of work. But it's on your YouTube channel. If the audience likes the story, YouTube will find a way to feed your audience to your clip because they're tracking everybody's retention rate and where they go and how long they watch and what they engage with. So if you have a piece of content that people engage with, you will find an audience on YouTube. That system is great to find an audience. You just need to pump in content and let the system do its thing and see what has a positive response. I mean, you can argue whether that type of content that you want to make is going to be successful on YouTube, whether that's the same thing, but you can use YouTube to really grow as a filmmaker or as an editor. I mean, I learned so much from doing YouTube in terms of my own editing. It's incredible. Like that, just to continue growing as a storyteller and editor. So Brian would love to continue doing this. Sasha, that would be worth money. Hopefully it gets big enough to be worth your time. Thank you. Ken, the trick is not taking failure personal. It's just one other opinion. Totally agree, Sven. Yes. I saw so many comments on the Epic Editing Challenge where people were devastated. They were pissed off because they weren't selected as the winner. They expected going into this that they would win. And I mean, unfortunately, I can't track who did what and then compare and say, okay, let me look at your scene and see how close you are as a storyteller. Because if you're really, really close, I would let you know. But unfortunately, I don't have that ability. But don't get pissed off because you didn't get selected. Rejection is part of this growing process. And if you embrace it, if you smile upon it and people notice that it doesn't faze you, it just makes your position stronger in the market. So there you go. More housekeeping. Am I running long? Should I stop the stream? Let me know. Podcast. There's going to be a new podcast tomorrow. Please do check it out. I think it's our best one yet. It's with Sacha Baron Cohen, and we look at scenes from Bruno and Borat, and I think we nailed it. You let me know if we did. There's going to be a new live web stream next month. I hope I can use my new camera that I set up, and I am looking at that viewfinder, and I just want to smash you. But I know it's not your fault. It's YouTube's fault for not getting these streams working. It's my fault, ultimately. But next time, hopefully, we'll have a better camera on this. We already have a much better microphone, so that's awesome. And I wish I could have played that clip because I had this great software where Tony could have jumped in here. We could experiment with this. But it's a step-by-step process. Each one of these post meetings hopefully will be better and better in terms of the technical ability. But I hope you get something out of it. I really thank you for being a patron. I'm going to take a last round of notes here in the chat room. Nothing more to say. Thank you so much. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye. Have a good one. Peace. How do I end this?